For my instructional material project, I decided to use the book Goodnight Moon. And I chose this book because it shares a lot of good vocabulary for my target audience, which is kindergartners and English learners. And so it goes through good vocabulary for this age group to know, and then it repeats it over and over. And then also I chose this book because it's a common book that students this age see in their house or at school and are reading, and so I think it'd be good for English learners to be able to have that opportunity as well. So 2 ideas I had were, first of all, to just go through the vocab and repeat it through a lesson that I'm going to show later, but another one I thought would be a good idea is to go through a rhyming lesson, because this book has a lot of good rhyming patterns. But the lesson that I chose was, so I'll go through the book first and I'll read it like this. I'd say, in the great green room there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of a cow jumping over the moon. And then over here, and 2 little kittens and a pair of mittens and a little toy house and a young mouse. And so I'd go through and I'd do that for the first time and through the whole book, and then I'd have the second time I'd read it and I'd have them point to the objects. And then the third time, if they were able to, I'd have them try and read it and point to the objects. And then also after that, I thought it'd be cool if they would share, like, in their first language what the object was and then what it is in English. So, like, how do you say kitten in their language, in their first language, and then compared to how it is in English. And then to wrap it up, like a lesson on what it is in I'd have them look around our classroom and find objects like the clock, and then write a little story about objects in our classroom and draw pictures. And so that's the lesson. And the theories that go behind it are, first of all, scaffolding, which is in Vygotsky's sociocultural theory. And this is scaffolding because you're helping students learn a skill, but and you're giving them support, but you're slowly letting them do it on their own, and giving them support when they need it. And in the Mitchell's Second Language Learning Theories book, it talks about how this is important because when they start to do it on their own, they're internalizing, and that means they're learning the skill because they're able to do it on their own. And with this book, why it is scaffolding is because I give them the instructions and I tell them what the vocabulary words are, and then they go off a little by themselves and they show me what the words are as I read it, and then they're totally on their own later for the project, but I'm there if they need help. The other theory so that's Vygotsky's theory, and then the other theory that I used was the skill acquisition theory, and that's the one where there's 3 steps, which the first step is how to do the skill. So in this book, it's what the vocabulary words are, and then understanding the skill better. And so as we go through the different steps in the book of them pointing to the words and stuff, they're learning how to do it better, and then getting better and better at doing the skills, the third step. And so by practicing and by comparing it to their language and then comparing it or applying it into our classroom, they're just getting better and better at that skill. There was a study done that was shared in Mitchell's book, Second Language Learning Theories, and it's where someone practiced saying the same thing 3 times with increasing speed versus someone practicing saying different things 3 times with increasing speed. And the first one led to more improvised speech fluency of using the same words. And so I think that's a good example of what we're doing in this lesson of repeating the same vocabulary words will help them in the end. Some of the Some of the things that I found that might be a problem is scaffolding is a very teacher-driven activity, and it's better if students can do a student-driven because it helps them learn it. But I think you can make this lesson, instead of scaffolding, into more of a student-driven, like a ZPD activity, just by having them, after you teach it to them, having them lead it, and then you teach them according to what the student needs. And the same with the skill acquisition theories. I think that can be a hard one because the students are at different levels and you need to apply it to them. So the different steps, like students may need more of step 1 or more of step 2, but as you are able to understand your students more, you can fit the lesson to their needs, and that's when I think that theory will really be helpful. So that is my lesson plan for Goodnight Moon.